right. You may remember me from the front door. This story takes place about 20 years ago when I was in the Air Force in Idaho. If you ever get a chance to go to Idaho, don't. I was on a temporary assignment down in a Hill Air Force Base in Salt Lake City, Utah. Oh, you're not going to like this story. Anyway, I was 20 years old, so incredibly full of myself. And I went to the Enlisted Club, which is the Air Force version of a dive bar. And that first night there, the bartender caught my eye. I thought she was pretty sweet. So the next night I showed up with a teddy bear ready to meet this bartender. Isn't that sweet? She wasn't on that night. So there I sat with my little teddy bear in front of me, looking sad and dejected because the girl I was there to pick up didn't show up. Luckily for me, there were more women than just that one in Utah, and 3 more walked into the room, and I walked up to one of them and asked her if she would like to dance or like a teddy bear. And she said yes to both. And after our first slow dance, she took me back to her table with her 2 other friends and informed me that she was on base to visit her fiancé. My luck continues. But then we get to the X part. This is where I meet Patty. Patty is a 33-year-old woman on the prowl for young enlisted folk just like myself. She found me and took me home. Yes, exactly. Hijinks ensued, and I learned things I never knew that I never knew in the bedroom. And the next morning, I met Patty's 2 sons, 5 and 6 years old, and heard about her 16-year-old daughter. Word to the wise, yeah. Get to know people before you go home with them. Anyway, we decided that we had had fun that night and that I should come down on weekends, even though the 200 miles it is from Mountain Home Air Force Base to Salt Lake City is roughly outside of the places that they call you AWOL. But when a 33-year-old woman teaches you everything that you know about sex, you're willing to risk it. Yeah. Some time in Leavenworth's not that bad. So I start driving the 200 miles down to see her every weekend. And after a couple weekends, she starts to trust me and leaves me in charge of the 5 and 6-year-old boy for a day while she goes out to run errands. What errands meant was to visit and take care of her crazy ex, who was responsible for the hole in the back of the television that caused it to catch on fire while I was babysitting the 2 boys. Yeah. This goes on for another few months. We have some great times, and I eventually meet the 16-year-old daughter, where the weirdest proposition any 2 women have ever given me comes from. Oh, it's not that bad, come on. Patty and her daughter asked me if I would be so kind as to take her to her prom. Now, this sounds pretty terrible to ask your boyfriend to take your daughter to her prom, but when you're 13 years older than your boyfriend and your daughter is only 4 years younger than your boyfriend, it makes a little bit more sense. So I get dolled up in my Class A Air Force uniform, and I show up to the prom with said 16-year-old girl, who introduces me to all of her friends as her mother's new boyfriend. And the night went about as awkwardly as you would expect it to. The weirdest part when she tried to lean in for a kiss, and I had to explain to her how that was not only a bad idea, but illegal in every state in the union. Then I went down to spend Christmas with Patty and I wrecked my car. I flipped a Datsun 280Z twice at 85 miles an hour. I was fine. I walked away from it, and she came to pick me up. In that subsequent trip, I decided that I was going to gamble away all my money illegally in State Line Casino in Nevada. This was right there. So when she had to drive me home, as I was penniless and now with no car, she dropped me off at Mount Home Air Force Base and told me that she was breaking up with me because I was entirely too irresponsible. So if you're going to date a woman who is 13 years older than you, be sure she's not looking for someone to raise or date her children.